You're listening to the Survivor Sweat Podcast with Mike Buchmiller and Russell Rosenblum. If you're looking for strategy articles and just about everything Survivor, head to survivorsweat.com. Now, let's get to it.
All right, Survivor Sweat Pod 18. Unreal. Here we are, down to the final week. I never thought we would get here.
And the endless Final Four.
Yes, and the endless Final Four, and they are all still alive through week 17. We are last year's Jed entry co-champs. Jed is long dead, but the Final Four lives for another week. Circus Master, Jax Jags, Indiana Jet, and L.A. Joneser, the improbable misclick that just...
Fate, the destiny selection.
It's proving that fate is on his side for sure. There really wasn't much of a sweat on week 17, which kind of reminded me a little bit of last year's
of week 17.
Yep. There were only 3 of us that headed into week 17 that survived the dual pick Christmas massacre. And week 17 was kind of a breeze for us. There was no games really in doubt.
For everybody. Everybody
Yeah.
just flew through. Wasn't close.
Exactly. And so this week, Circus Master looked like they had the huge advantage or the edge by being able to take the Browns. Obviously, we didn't know they took it until they revealed it on Saturday, but
yeah, we kind of knew.
Pretty much mathematical that he was going to take it. He was the only one that could. Probably a great feeling to survive. That game was never in doubt. And then be able to sit back and relax and hopefully have 1, 2, or maybe even 3 get clipped. And so you kind of realized early in the week when there was a announcement of a chop that there was a strong possibility that teams would try to avoid one another and try to isolate and gamble.
Yep.
So before we go any farther, when we're discussing a chop, it's actually more of a save.
Right.
Would you like to explain to our listeners?
Sure. I mean, it's a nuanced difference. Usually if you're chopping the money, it's kind of as it sounds. You're taking all the money. If there were 4 people and it paid 8 million, just for easier math, everyone would get 2 million, you'd stop playing. Circa doesn't really let you stop playing, but in theory, you could just chop the money and you could all agree, for example, this week, we'll all just hit Cincinnati, right? And then you've effectively chopped. It doesn't really matter that Circa is saying you have to put in a pick, or 3 of the 4 lose, but it wouldn't matter. You're each taking 2 million because that's the deal you made. A save's a little bit different. I use similar math. There's 9 million in change for first, and you each decide, okay, let's each take 2 million, which is 8 million. And then the winner will get 1.2, or it'll be chopped up amongst the winners, or however you want to deal with that. And that would be more of a save. You're saving some amount of money. Terms are often used interchangeably. It's not really a huge deal, I think. But typically that would be the difference. A save means you're still playing for something, and a chop usually means you're not. All the money's split up and you're done. Exactly.
And on the Twitter handle, there are a few people going, well, this takes the air out of it. There's a chop. What are they playing for? And repeatedly people responded like, no. There's some money out there and it's a good chunk of change. I'm hearing it's upwards to $2 million for the winner. And
that's what I've heard. I don't have any confirmation. But look, I know the reality here too is if they chopped up $9 million 4 ways and we're playing for $100,000, that's still a decent amount of money.
Yeah.
And if you were playing for no money, no one's going to not put in a pick because you didn't play for money. Everybody wants to say to the champ. And for the record, even if you have a deal and you've agreed to chop up all the money, even if 100% of the money is chopped up, and one of you wins this week and the other 3 don't, that winner's the guy that gets up there on the stage and gets to say he won, and those other 3 don't. Circa doesn't care what you do with the money. The winner's the winner. That's it.
That is correct. It's the prestige of winning it, being declared the champ. You get the big check, which we've posted in past episodes. And, you go to a big ceremony, and it's quite the ordeal, and it's a good feeling. You also get a chance to purchase a jacket as well, just like the Circa Million. So, I mean, it's It's winning something. And so nobody remembers the person that finishes second place or third place.
Correct.
Just
you want to win. You've come this far. There's nobody that's doing this far that has no competitive nature in them, right? So everybody's going to want to win, say they won. I'm sure everybody does want the money. Given the magnitude of the money, I can't really sit here and say the money is secondary. The money's very meaningful, but winning is also meaningful.
It is. And we can say for firsthand, you know, obviously the money was great. The big check was great. But going this far, I wanted to walk away with the title. I wanted to win this.
100%.
How many times do you get down here to a Final 4, Final 10, Final 20, Final 100? And to get there to week 18,
right?
Whether all 4 end up surviving, or 2 or 3 or whatever it may be, or 1, there's never been a single winner. Last year, we got as close as we possibly could get with 2 surviving. 1 almost didn't survive that. But in past years, there's
actually all of them almost didn't survive. All of us almost lost.
This is true.
1 did. The other 2 actually did. It was pretty 100%. Crazy.
Yeah. So
it would be like saying you could get this deep and you know, feel satisfied with get it, even if all the money was chopped up. I'll give an analogy to. I'm sure there are a number of the people that listen to this that also play fantasy football. Imagine you made it to your league finals and you had, you know, McCaffrey and Kelsey. And then you lost, which you probably did if those are 2 of the people you had. It's easy to look back and go, I had a great season. And maybe in a month, you'll look back and say, I had a great season. Even if you chopped up the money, you'd be pretty disgusted that you had a team like that. And then neither of them, I mean, McCaffrey showed up a little bit. Kels didn't show up at all. And you'd be pretty disgusted by that. And that's kind of the same thing here. And from what I understand, they are definitely playing for substantial sums. But even if they were playing for 0, you don't want to make it this far and then not win. You want to win.
Of course.
The money will take the sting out eventually.
Yes, it sure would. So on the Survivor Sweat X handle, we popped on there. We mentioned that Circus Master would be able to isolate themselves and take the Browns on Thursday night.
What a shock.
If they did, they were in a great spot. They did. We also discussed the fact that L.A. Joneser came out last week and announced his pick early. We also suspected he may do so, and he did. He came out and announced that he wasn't afraid of the quarterback change.
Yep.
And
I think I explicitly said that he should do so. He set up a precedent for it, and it was a very good idea.
Absolutely, and he was rolling with the Broncos, and so that left the Jacksonville Jags with the only entry that could take the Browns. He could also take the Colts, which he ended up taking. And we said if we were Indiana Jet, that we would follow Joneser's footsteps and announce that we were taking the Houston Texans. And so everything pretty much went to plan with the Brown Circus Master. Jags was the only one. I didn't know if they were going to go Colts. Didn't know if they were going to go Bears, just to make sure that they were isolated. Indiana Jet rolled out with the Texans. And L.A. Joneser claimed he took them, and he did take them. So he was not bluffing.
Nope. That'd be a really weird place to bluff.
Oh, wow. Yeah.
I mean, you're going to say, I'm going to take this to direct somebody else. Hopefully they take a different team. Then you're going to take the different team. You could end up on the same team as them. Like, it wouldn't make any sense.
Yeah. So the recap of week 17, non-eventful, 0 hit the skids. So we still have the remaining 4. Out of the original 9,267 entries. We're done talking no picks. They are all down there making their picks in person. And it was non-eventful.
Yep.
And so that is the rundown, or the breakdown, excuse me, of week 17. We have some really interesting stuff moving forward. And we will come back after the break to discuss.
See you soon.
Time for a message from our sponsor. Stay tuned, and we'll be right back with the Survivor Sweat Podcast.
If you live out of state but want to enter any of the biggest football handicapping contests in Las Vegas, you've come to the right place. Football Proxy is the most professional proxy service in Las Vegas and can serve as your trusted proxy to enter your picks each week for the Super Contest, Circus Sports Millions, or Circus Survivor contests. What makes Football Proxy different from other proxies? Well, like other proxies, we have late selection deadlines and an easy-to-use web portal to submit your picks each week. But, unlike other proxies, we allow our customers to change their picks anytime before the pick deadline, which is crucial when gathering last-minute information. Ask another proxy if they allow you to make changes to your picks and see their reaction. It's what makes us the top-rated proxy service in Las Vegas. To get started, fill out the contact form and a representative will contact you to answer any questions and schedule an appointment. Then book your trip to Las Vegas and meet us at the designated casino to get signed up. Once the season starts, sweat the action all season long with your picks. Schedule an appointment today and compete against the world's best for your chance at millions.
Okay, we are back. So let's tee it up for the final week of the NFL regular season, week 18, which year in and year out is one of the most toughest weeks to handicap. Who's
for sure.
playing, who's not playing, who's motivated, who's unmotivated. It's just so hard because somebody mentioned like it's kind of like preseason, but it really isn't because
It's not like preseason.
no, because those are extended rosters. Here you have
Right.
53-man roster. And so, sure, a few players, a few marquee offensive players, or maybe a marquee defensive player can sit and rest if they're nicked up. But for the most part, these guys got to play.
Yeah,
They
you can't rest, your 22 starters, 11 on each side.
No.
You just don't have enough guys.
No, and anytime you are on film and you are on tape, you are being evaluated by the current
Correct.
coaching staff, by other coaching staffs throughout the league.
Well, you're forgetting something too. You know who else is being evaluated? The coaching staffs.
The coaching staff.
Now, I'm not saying, for example, I don't, even though every couple of years they always say he's got to worry about his job. It's insane. I don't think John Harbaugh is really being evaluated, right?
No.
It doesn't, and they do every couple of years. They say maybe he's lost his touch, whatever. Who are you going to get that's better? Put it that way. But he's not really being evaluated. I don't really think that Vrabel's really being evaluated. There are some guys that are safe. I would say that Belichick isn't being evaluated, but I think whatever decision's been made over there, and there are lots of rumors, has been made. This isn't going to make much of a difference, right? So, and a lot of these marginal spots, the coaching staffs are being evaluated. And to that point, you had, and you're right about the players as well. I remember because it's like it was yesterday. Our last year, week 18. And the enemy within, the person of the three that didn't make it, we were pretty sure he was going to take Minnesota. And Minnesota was pretty much locked into their playoff spot. It didn't matter. And coach announced he was sitting a bunch of guys. He was going to rest his guys. And we talked to him afterwards, nice guy, and not the coach, the enemy within. And he said that took him off his pick. He got shaken by that, and he decided not to pick them. It was a good spot for him to take Minnesota because none of us could. So he didn't take them. And instead he went to the was it the Colts-Texans game?
Yeah.
And now these are two teams that were playing, you could argue, for a draft choice.
Yeah.
Like
yeah.
they're not, to say they're not playing for a division or a playoff spot. And then you get Lovie Smith, who presumably is losing his job anyway.
Mhm.
And he goes out there with an ownership that probably prefers he loses.
Yeah.
And as we were texting each other, I was in the airport in Buenos Aires coming back from Antarctica. And we're discussing as they're driving down the field, if he scores here, he's going for 2, as he should. I mean, it's going to be at 0, whatever. You're going to go to overtime in a meaningless game. Like, no one wants to do that in the NFL. That would almost, that's like you're up by 30 and you're throwing the ball deep, like it's just not going to happen. And he went out there and went for the win. And I think there were 2 4th and 15 or more, and they converted on the last drive. It was crazy. And that cost the enemy within his 3-way chop, right?
Yeah.
Because he ends up going to a game that I wouldn't, and I told him this at the time, I wouldn't go anywhere near that game unless literally it's my only option. It's not as if I thought, you picked the wrong side, you happen to lose. But these teams, I mean, you don't know if they're playing to win, playing for a draft choice, like you said, Mike. Whoever you put physically on the field is playing to win.
Of course.
It doesn't matter the left tackle. If he has a terrible game and you get a great draft choice, he doesn't have a job where you get that draft choice. He has a job somewhere else or nowhere else.
And as it turns out, like we mentioned, he got caught up in the coach speak, and Minnesota did sit their guys, but they didn't sit them till late in the third when they had a 20-plus point lead. And so, they went out there to play to continue with their momentum for playoffs. And I mean,
but you've also got the element we've talked about before. We got burned in a couple of these games in the past, and it makes me queasy. Not in Survivor, just in sports betting. I remember which side it was, Kansas City, San Diego. We're watching back at Twin Peaks. That's how long ago. I think they're long closed, maybe 10 years. And I'm pretty sure it was the Chargers that were knocked out of the playoffs, I would think, at the time. And Kansas City was playing for a 1 seed, and Kansas City lost. And, this is the thing. Nobody was sitting anybody. The Chargers didn't care in theory, but the guys you put on the field care. And then here's the other element. whether the coach does it or not, if you are, and I think this was back when you had Alex Smith there or something, right? But, you could have a wide receiver, like we talk about this a lot, where they sort of peel, where they don't run a full route, where they know they're playing next week. And so, they want to stay healthy. They don't want to get banged up. They don't need to kill themselves, right? On the other hand, you could have the guy that peels like Keenan Allen if he were playing, which I'm sure he's not. Well, I'm not sure. I assume he's not. I haven't looked at the report. He didn't play last week. I don't know why you'd put him in this week. But if he technically plays, he's going to, maybe he gives it his all. I'm not saying anything against him, but if I'm in his seat, why am I going every time you step foot in the field, you're risking injury?
Yes.
So
and on the other side of that coin, there are players playing for incentives.
Absolutely. Yep.
For contractual incentives that are important, and they are aware of it. And other players on their team are aware of it as well, whether you're a quarterback, receiver, running back, somebody trying to get a sack or something like that to escalate a bonus in their contract. So, it's hard to discuss.
I'm going to put a loose comment out there. When people say the ownership group would prefer they don't hit those numbers because they don't want to have to pay, I think that's largely BS. I'm sure that could happen. You have some cheap owners out there, et cetera, but most of the bonuses you're talking about a salary cap that's over $200 million, right? You're talking most of the bonuses are, there are a couple that are seven figures. Most of them are 100,000, 200,000, 400,000. Maybe the entire team, it could pound out to like an extra million. It's, 1/2 of 1%. Yes, it counts against the cap. I don't know exactly how, because I know there's an issue of what year it counts against because of the way the bonuses work. But as is now self-evident with everything going on, and I'm not changing topics, everything going on in Denver, if you're a coaching staff or an ownership that's going to sit a guy that wants to play so that he can't make his $200,000 or $300,000 bonus, good luck signing the next free agent.
Absolutely.
They're just not coming.
Absolutely. And you hear people like, oh, this team has to win. They're in a must-win game. And I've heard this.
What about the other 17 weeks? They didn't care?
I've heard the saying before, if they must win, they must not be that good, because they would have taken care of this along the way. So if you're playing for it here, and I guess just to put a button on this, be careful in trying to decide motivation for your pick. Okay. Just try to stick with the analytics and how it's going to work.
And I know we're supposed to put a button on it, but I'll make one comment here too, which doesn't directly relate to Survivor because no one's really, well, you're sort of looking at one of these teams in a way, I guess, possibly here. As I was reading this morning, and somewhat obvious, based on what happens in the Jags game, if Baltimore winning can make it easier, if Baltimore wins, and I think was it the Jags win, if I remember right, then the Bills can get in even with a loss at Miami. Whereas depending on the outcome of the Jags game, if Baltimore loses, then Buffalo has to win to get in, right? Yeah. So the question that came up is, if you're Baltimore, it's probably true right now, Buffalo's probably the second best team in the AFC to Baltimore, right? So if you're Baltimore, do you really want to see Buffalo in the playoffs? I would think the answer is theoretically no. But again, the players in the field are not going to tank.
No.
So that maybe Buffalo doesn't get in the playoffs. Now, management can put different guys on the field.
Yep.
And also the question is, how much do they really want to play, if they end up having to play Pittsburgh again because they didn't want to have to play Buffalo and it's a division game. At the end of the day, it's the I know, they know, I know, they know, I know, they know thing. And I think the coaches decide to put who they're going to put on the field, and whoever they put on the field is going to play to win. And that just sort of is what it is.
All right. So let's look at some of these games that are going to take place here on the field here.
Sure.
So the top, well, we'll just start at the top here. So 71%.
Should I say take Dallas if you have them?
Yeah. Good luck. The best team out there, all four can take them, is the Bengals -6 versus the Browns. The Bengals are 71% in win rate. They are -6. And they go off at Sunday at 10 a.m. I'm giving the times just in case that comes into play. The second one, which is actually the first to go off this week on Saturday, because there's no Thursday game. So Saturday at 1:30 p.m., the Steelers -3.5 versus the Ravens.
Yep.
Now, they are at 63% win rate, and that number started at around 5.5, quickly came down to 3.5. People are anticipating the Ravens sitting their guys here. Maybe Lamar Jackson doesn't suit up. We don't know. But only one can take them. L.A. Joneser can isolate himself and take the Steelers on Saturday. After that, you have the Packers -3 versus the Bears that are in a win and in playoff scenario at 60% win rate. Man, the Bears are playing really well right now. Circus Master and Jags can take them. I was listening to a DVOA report, and the Bears are grading out really well. For the last 7 weeks, they're one of the top statistical teams in the league, both offense and defense, and they've had some momentum coming through here. So they're not gonna pull up now. But here you are with the Packers in a must win. Then you got the Saints. I don't know if you want to tangle here with the Saints and Falcons. Saints -3, 56% win rate. Jags, Indiana Jet can take them. That's a Sunday game at 10. And then you got Detroit -3 versus the Vikings. Again, LA Jones is the only one that can take them. So LA Jones will either be on the Steelers or Detroit, whatever game he feels.
I don't think he's the type to be on Cincinnati unless he thinks he can get out there.
No, he's
tell the world in advance. I know that. I know. So unless he believed he can go out there, tell the world he's going to be on Cincinnati, and then they feel compelled to not be. But
absolutely. And the fact that these guys have made a save and have publicly stated such, they will try to go for the glory here. They are going to try to see if they can't win this thing outright. So I would be absolutely surprised if they're all 4 on the Bengals. And if they were, it meant that they just had another conversation and said, let's all push the same button and let's be champs here. That's the only way they're all on the Bengals. Otherwise, you got Jones is going to take either the Steelers, Detroit, and then it's going to be
by the way, on that point, I will put out a recommendation, even though it's probably implied. If any of the 4 of you guys out there are listening, if you did decide to actually split up all the money, you should just all hit the same button. Then, you don't want to say we're splitting up all the money, but let's just all make these random picks, because then you are all still relying on enforcing contracts and everything else. If you all hit the same button and all hit it on the big favorite, then it's just easy.
Yeah, of course, and not to say that there isn't an ironclad agreement, but if they all,
of course. But if you wanted to still play for 100 or 200, you could all agree to hit the same button, and then send the picks you would have made to some independent third party. And then after you each get paid your 2.3 million or whatever it is, 2.4 million, you can then settle up for 100, 200,000 separate.
Absolutely.
So just putting that out there.
And then the last game to discuss here, there may be another you might find, not sure, is the Raiders -2.5 versus the Broncos. It's a 54% win rate, and it goes off at 125.
Have I mentioned before that 80% of the teams in the NFL are trash? I don't know if I brought that up yet this season.
Oh, I know.
I don't know, man. I think that takes a lot of stones. I mean, I guess I like Vegas. I'm going to root for Vegas anyway. I'm going to be sitting there, but
sure.
I don't know.
Yeah. And, and another thing that I'm going to add here is, obviously, 9.2 million is a lot. They've made this formal agreement as a save/chop. But we don't know who's in deep pockets with the hedging.
It's true.
So, some of them could be in pretty deep there. Some of them have partners. Some of them have made swaps. The thrill of possibly getting 9.2 million is now down to, oh, wow, I might just be able to pull out 2 million, which, by the way, big number.
No. I know 2 million is still a lot of money, but when you've already locked up, say 1.8, it doesn't feel as meaningful.
No, exactly. And then, you got partners, you've made swaps, you're in deep with, possible hedging. You're looking at taxes. All of a sudden, the allure of 9.2 million, you're like, wow, I might pull out 1.1 out of this. I might pull out, 800,000.
Right.
When first place, 4, 5, 6 weeks ago, you're looking at it, you've made no deal.
We discuss this all the time, right? You're going, my God, I'm not saying everybody's different. What life-changing money is different for everybody. But obviously 9.2 million is more likely to be life-changing than 2 million.
Yes.
This is not exactly rocket science, right? And you start the contest going, oh my God, I can win 9.2 million. And then at the end, maybe you're saying I can win 2.5 million. I don't know where their numbers are.
Yeah.
Or 3. It's still great. It does take the air out a little bit. And we deal with this even in any sports bet. Like we have a couple of full season win totals that we are literally on the half game, where if we win this week, we win the win total. If we lose the lose total. And in a couple of those instances, the seasons didn't go the way we thought. We thought we'd win by not 6 games, but by 2 games, 3 games, not sit there on the half game. And then the question is, do you hedge it?
Yeah.
You know, to make sure you lock up a small win. Of course, if you do that every time you would have had a win, then all the times you lose 100% of your money. And whenever you get close, you only win 50, you're going to be a lifetime loser. So it's not that easy a decision. You know, when you looked up and said, I could win X, and now you're only winning half of X. It's psychology is so much of this in any sports betting. And this is sports betting. Psychology plays a huge role.
Yeah. You know, so looking at the appraisals, you know, last week it looked like Circus Master had the lion's share of the equity because he could take the Browns. This week, I think he's basically lost his edge there from an equity standpoint. To me, if there's a single winner in this, I think it turns out to be L.A. Joneser. If his team goes through, maybe 2 jump on Cincinnati. They play a high-stakes game of chicken. Maybe Cincinnati goes down.
I agree. If there's a single winner, for the reasons you're stating, it's most likely to be Joneser. However, I mean, I don't know. I think I haven't run the math. It's just really off the top of my head. If you asked me, excuse me, total left here at the end of this week, I'd probably say 2.5 entries, something like that.
Yeah.
You over under?
You know, 3. And we could also see the Cincy, Green Bay, New Orleans, and then either Detroit or Pitt he takes. I don't know. It'll be interesting.
And I'm just going to state the obvious, just for those who don't listen to every single podcast. Wow, people look up. God, it's amazing. He still has Detroit there. He's the only guy with Detroit. I was waiting for that. The reason he has Detroit, for the people that didn't listen, is he took Detroit on Thanksgiving, only he didn't. Yeah. And this is why we keep talking about fate and destiny. He went to hit Detroit and accidentally hit the other side of the game. Yeah. So if he hit the side that he wanted, he'd be out. And he misclicked. And that's why he's still there.
Yeah. And the other 3 can't help to think of if he would have just pushed the button like he was supposed to push it. They're sitting here with 3 like we are. Yep. And the equity in that is
whatever deals they've made, etc. Correct. It's 1 less person. It's Yeah. No, it's huge.
Because every entry at that point would be 3-6-6.
But I would say I haven't looked at the probabilities and don't know 100% who they're picking. But I think the probability you have a single winner is very low.
Yeah. Yeah, I'm saying here from a game theory standpoint, we know Joneser will be on one of Pittsburgh or Detroit. I think if you're Circus Master or any Indiana Jet, I think you better get out there, or Jags. You better go out there and tell everybody you're going to take Cincinnati if you want the big favorite, because then you're going to have to, you know, they're going to have to decide if they're coming along with you, or are they going to pivot to then New Orleans and Green Bay, which are the next 2 permutation.
Although I'm going to take back something I said earlier. It's not going to happen. He's already sort of acknowledged it, but there could be an advantage of L.A. Joneser coming out to say, to heck with it, I'm taking Cincinnati.
Oh, yeah.
But then taking a team that no one else can actually take.
There you go.
So that if he then comes out and takes, what has he got? Pittsburgh, Detroit, those are teams no one can take.
Nobody can take
I believe so. Assuming he was only assuming he's going to take one of these teams anyway. This way, maybe from the other 3 guys, since Cincinnati's the big favorite, right? Maybe you get at least one of them or 2 to go on to somebody that isn't the big favorite. It might increase your probability to split this thing 2 ways or 3 ways instead of 4 ways. When you win, when you lose, you've lost anyway.
Sure.
Right? So it would be this would be an interesting time to bluff, particularly given, you know, all he's shown so far is I don't bluff. Yeah. So you'll have people believing him. So if you had one person that was really hemming and hawing between, you know, Cincinnati and New Orleans, like Indiana Jet or something, maybe he just goes, I guess I'll just take New Orleans.
Yeah.
You know, I'd rather at least have a shot to be alone, you know, some shot.
Sure. No, it's going to be interesting to see how it plays out. Interesting strategy. He can definitely do that. But we're going to see where Circus Master, Indiana Jags, and then, as you propose, maybe, who knows, L.A. Jones.
Oh, and a plug for Circa. For those of you that are in Vegas, and we have no affiliation, but they're great guys. It's a great place to watch a game, and week 18 is a weird place to watch all games in general, but that's a great place to go head down, and I'm sure most of the, if not all of those Final Four will be there. You can at least wave and, maybe hit them up to borrow 300 after they win 3 million or something. Don't do that. Don't do that.
No, don't do that. Don't do that.
I'm going to go back and say something again. Maybe it'll piss off Jeff Benson, but it's okay. I love Jeff, so it's fine. I'll fade the risk. I know it won't piss him off. I'll just say, no, we're not doing that. What I think they should do, I think it benefits the players and it benefits Circa. If you knew, for example, they all agreed to lock up, pick a number, doesn't matter, 1.5 million. Doesn't really matter what the number is. And they're playing for the rest. If Circa were to let them all go in there and say, yes, we've all agreed, we're each chopping up 1.5 million, we're playing for the rest. And Circa were to say, great, we're going to put 1.5, you got to sign the paperwork, tax forms, whatever. So you might have to sign twice, once here and once again. We're going to put 1.5 million in each of your sports betting accounts. You can, of course, withdraw it to whatever you want. They're not going to force you to gamble with it. It lets people hedge, but even not hedge. Maybe the guy doesn't want to hedge. Maybe the guy just wants to bet, Dallas this week for 50K.
Maybe. Sure.
Nothing to do with Survivor, right? But the NFL football season is a huge sports betting time, right? Yes. So, and this is the time where they're willing to take, they'll take big action as you reach Saturday, Sunday. Circa's the best, but I don't know how many of these guys, even if they wanted to have 50K to go bet the Dallas game. Notice I'm picking a game, nothing to do with Survivor, right? So they'll have it in 2 weeks, after this week, and then however long before they start payouts, I don't remember, a few days. But the season's over. They'll have the playoffs, but the regular season's over. Why don't you give the guys the cash when they can still bet a few games? Sure. And if you gave them the cash 2-3 weeks ago, they can bet that many more games. Just good for business, and the guys would be happy.
Yeah, interesting take for sure. And
sorry, Jeff. Yeah.
Truth be told, I was down at Circa last weekend. I was sweating my fantasy football and some sports bets as well. I did see a couple of the contestants, the guys that are still alive. I did not engage with them. I wanted to give them their space, and I didn't want to, You
didn't wear your jacket down there?
No jacket. Didn't want to mess with their mojo. I did an interview with a group that's doing a documentary, a season-long documentary on the Circa Survivor. Hopefully that'll come out sometime prior to next season. But I just let them be, and I just sweated our fantasy football. I know we were texting back and forth.
Yes, we were.
Yeah, I mean, it's a great atmosphere. Love being down there. Unbelievable place, unbelievable venue to watch. Connected with Derek and Jeff Benson and everybody. And so, yeah, like I said, I wish nothing but the best for the 4 remaining. Whatever way you decide to push that button.
I will just suggest, if any of you guys head down there to watch the game anywhere near Derek, I would not recommend wearing a Washington sweatshirt or jersey or anything like that. Derek is a very obvious, very open, very out of the closet, diehard, everything Michigan fan. Yeah. Michigan College, Detroit, everything to do with Michigan. So I would not, even their ballrooms, if you don't really understand what they are, they're like cities in Michigan and play. So yeah, I would not try to make friends by wearing a Washington jersey.
And if you were hoping to go on to Survivor Sweat and buy a piece of an entry, you'll have to wait for next year.
I think so.
That is long.
Wait, can you put in an offer? Wouldn't know how.
Put an offer.
Yeah, at this point, if I own the entries, I mean, the only reason you would sell a piece is if you thought the juice was cheaper than hedging, right? Yeah. And I don't think anyone's buying at that price. So no, I think that's probably the end of that.
Long gone. So it will be, the winners will be a combination of all 4, 3 of 4, 2, 1, whatever. So we'll see how it all plays out. And we are looking forward to recapping that and maybe telling you some exciting news for the 2000.
Oh, and to answer the question, sorry, I interrupt you all the time. For the crazy people that asked, what if all of them lose? And I think one person out there, David Williams, baby, he was trolling and said if everybody loses, Circa keeps the money, which I thought was great. Love it. No, Circa does not keep the money. If they all lose, they all split up the money. It's the same as if they all win at this point. There's no difference.
100%. Yep. All right. Well, thank you to everyone that is tuned in to watch our pod. We've had a lot of fun doing so. Again, I think we'll do a recap. Who knows? Maybe we can get one or multiple winners on here and discuss some of their strategy and just discuss their process. And we'll see how that goes. But if you want to hit us up on the Survivor Sweat X handle or the Survivor Sweat discussion board. It's been great. I've enjoyed this. I haven't enjoyed playing the contest, but I have enjoyed following and discussing everything circa Survivor.
Yep. So, and to the 4 of you still alive, good luck this week. And to everybody else, good luck next year.
Absolutely. Absolutely. We will see you on the flip side. Get your pick in.
Oh, yeah. Good idea.
Looking for Survivor strategy articles? Did you lose your last entry on a Survivor contest and wish you could rebuy? Check out our marketplace and you may find what you need. Head over to survivorsweat.com for all things Survivor. And we'll see you next week for the next Survivor Sweat podcast.